Hey everyone, welcome to beautiful Eastern Sierra, right off the 395. This is, to me, some of the most beautiful scenery in the whole country. I mean, look behind you. It's amazing. Right off to the side over here, we have Alabama Hills, down a couple miles, where they used to film a lot of the old westerns. So to me, this is some of the most beautiful scenery in the country. Anyway, investing, especially when you're early. Let's talk about when you first start out. Let's say after you get out of college, because that would be a good time to invest. 22, 23. The very first thing I recommend to anyone just getting out of college, and if your company has a 401k plan, invest in that 401k plan immediately, at least to get the company match. Usually it's like, 5 or 6% if you put it in. And if you're lucky enough to be in a company that will match that salary, you're set. And when you're young, you can put it in 90% stocks if you want. The reason for that is because you've got so much more time on your hands to be able to just let that stock market do what it does. S&P 500 has averaged a little over 10% returns if you look over 30-year periods. We're going all the way back to the Great Depression, okay? When you're young, sock that money into the 401k plan. Let it take advantage of compounding, the magic of compounding. Now, you won't see this initially. It's going to take a while. It'll probably take you a good 8 to 10 years for that compounding to start working for you. But once it does, the growth is exponential. It's literally exponential. I mean, I remember when I first started investing, and again, I waited till I was 40, way too long. And if any of you are looking at this content for the first time, my name is Duane. I retired back in August of 2021 with $500,000. And this is a channel meant for a lot of people who are about the same circumstances as myself. Moderate income, looking for ways to go through this economy. So if you're, like that, if you think you might be interested in that, consider subscribing. And please like the video as well. So anyway, if you're young, and God, I wish I started investing in my 20s. I mean, I would have been retired 5 years ago, right? Or 10 years ago. So yeah, start doing it early. Sock away into the 401ks. And again, when you're young, you can invest heavy in stocks because that will help you the most over the long run. So look at some individual stocks. Do your research. If you see a company that you really like and is really starting to grow, or maybe if they even haven't started growing yet, but you have a good feeling about them, the price earnings ratio looks pretty good. Are they a value or are they a growth stock? Those are things you have to look at. Sock some money into that. Not too much, but a little bit of money when you're, say, 22, 23, say you put a couple $1,000 into it. If that company takes off for you in the future, whoo, man, that's a good place to be. As far as investments themselves, when you're that young, when I started investing at 40, I was doing it in target date retirement funds. You're too young for that. You don't need to worry about that. Look at some good index funds. Index are low-cost funds that take a bunch of companies that are in kind of the same area, growth, value, stuff like that. Invest in those. You can invest in a little bit of bonds on the side too if you want to, but I would do heavy stock. Another thing I would recommend is that keep some money on the side. You always want to have an emergency fund. A lot of people, especially when they're young, they don't have an emergency fund. So let's say this is your first job coming out of college. Okay, you feel it might be a good thing, right? You never know. You never know if that job is going to be there for you in a couple years. You got to set aside at least 6 months emergency fund saving. Okay? You just do. It's just a smart thing to do. So if you're out of work for a little while, and usually when you're younger, it's easier to bounce back, As I've talked about on this channel for a while, The older you get, especially if you get over 50 and you're trying to get another job, even a part-time job, ageism. Ageism is such a huge thing. But when you're young, as long as you have like that, 6 months of emergency fund set up, you're good to go, man. You're good to go. Just put everything into that first job you have. And another thing to think about is that first job's probably not going to be your last job. It's not like it was 50 years ago. Like my dad worked at the same company for about 30 years. It's not usually like that nowadays, right? So anyway, when you're young, when you're in your 20s, especially in your 20s, start investing as soon as you can. Because 10, 20 years down the road, you're going to see that magic of compounding. Have I been saying compounding this whole time? Compounding, whatever, same thing, right? You're going to see the magic of that take off. It's just going to start growing and growing and growing exponentially. Remember that. Just keep putting it in every single month. $200 here. If you get a raise, instead of upping your standard of living, put that raise into your 401k contribution. Okay? It's really not that hard, guys, if you start early. If you start with a couple $100 in your 20s, you're not going to have to wait till you're like 40 like me to start putting in $400 a month, $500 a month. Another thing to do, if you get a raise, let's say you were putting 6% into your 401k when you're in your 20s, take some of that raise and bump that contribution number up to, let's say, 7, 8%. Okay? It's all going to help down the road. And if you do it slowly like that, it's not going to hurt as much. Sure, take maybe a percentage of that and, get some nicer clothes, maybe a little bit nicer area to live or something like that. But take some of that raise and put it into your investments. You're going to thank me later, guys. So anyway, stocks when you're in your 20s. Start investing early in your 20s, right when you come out of college. If you're not in college, start investing earlier. You might not even have a great paying job by then. Invest $100 a month. Invest $150 a month. If you keep doing that for a solid 10, 20, 30 years, you really don't have to invest that much at a particular time. You don't have to wait till you're 40 like me to start catching up and having to invest heavily. Okay, guys? So look at that. Heavy in stocks when you're young, especially when you're in your 20s, and do not wait. There's going to be so many other temptations. Like for me, it was like, okay, I was in the music industry when I turned 30. Music every night. Drinking almost every night. Women all over the place. Of course, have fun. But remember, be smart. Invest when you're young. You'll thank me later. And remember, guys, we got this.